I used to think I had my whole life figured out. I thought I knew where I was headed, who I loved, and what my future would look like. But sometimes the people you trust the most, the ones you let closest to your heart, are the very people who can shatter everything in one single moment. I remember the night it all started. My heart was pounding, not from fear, but from excitement. I had just landed the biggest opportunity of my life, something I had been working toward for years. I rushed home, eager to share the news, eager to see her face light up the way mine had. She was supposed to be proud of me. She was supposed to be the one cheering me on. But what I found instead left me questioning everything I ever believed about love, loyalty, and family. You see, I wasn't just building a career. I was building a life with someone I thought I could trust. Her name was Emily. She wasn't just my girlfriend. She was my best friend, my partner, my safe place. At least, that's what I thought she was. She knew all my secrets, my dreams, my insecurities. I told her everything because I believed she'd never use it against me. But I was wrong. So wrong. The betrayal didn't come suddenly. It came quietly, in little pieces I didn't notice until it was too late. Missed calls. Excuses. The way her smile didn't reach her eyes anymore. I kept brushing it off, convincing myself it was just stress or exhaustion. But deep down, I felt it. Something was slipping away. Something was being taken from me, piece by piece, and I didn't know how to stop it. And then came the moment that broke me. The night that turned everything upside down. The night I realized that the very dream I had worked for, sacrificed for, and believed in wasn't mine anymore. She had taken it, stolen it, and with it, she had stolen me. It's hard to put into words what betrayal feels like. It's like standing in a burning house, screaming for help, and realizing the person holding the match is someone you loved. That's the weight I carried. That's the wound I tried to hide. But here's the thing. Sometimes when one dream is stolen, another quietly begins to take shape. And sometimes, it's not the person who broke you that helps you heal. It's someone you never expected. Someone who was right there all along, watching, waiting, and ready to remind you that your story isn't over yet. And for me, that someone was her sister. I know what you're thinking. That sounds impossible, maybe even unforgivable. But life doesn't always unfold the way we imagine it will. Sometimes the most broken paths lead you exactly where you were meant to be. But before I tell you how her sister came into my life, how she picked me up from the ashes, you need to know just how deep the betrayal went. When I look back now, I realize the warning signs were always there. But when you're in love, you wear blinders. You only see what you want to see. Emily and I had been together for nearly 4 years. We met in college. She was this smart, charming girl who had a way of making everyone in the room notice her. I was the opposite, quiet, focused, the type who'd rather sit in the library than at a party. But somehow she saw me. She walked up, smiled, and made me feel like I was the only person in the world. From that moment on, I was hooked. We were inseparable. We shared everything. Late-night takeout, whispered secrets under the stars, dreams about the future. She wanted to be in the entertainment industry. I wanted to build something of my own, a business that would stand the test of time. Together, we built this vision of success, of building a life we could be proud of. And I thought we were on the same team. But as I poured myself into my work, chasing opportunities and putting in long hours, I started noticing changes in her. At first, it was little things. She became less interested in my progress, brushing off my excitement when I told her about new deals or achievements. Then she started missing important moments, celebrations, milestones, nights we were supposed to spend together. I thought maybe I wasn't giving her enough attention, so I tried harder. I planned surprises, took time off, made sure she knew how much she meant to me. But instead of bringing us closer, it felt like she was drifting further away. Her sister, Claire, noticed too. She was younger by 2 years, softer in her ways. Someone who didn't demand the spotlight the way Emily did. Claire and I weren't close back then, but whenever I saw her, she had this quiet concern in her eyes, like she could see what I refused to admit. I brushed it off, convincing myself I was just overthinking. But then came the dream I had always chased. A business pitch I'd been working on for months finally got the green light. It was everything I had worked for, my chance to step into the future I had always wanted. I was ecstatic. I couldn't wait to tell Emily, to finally share something that I thought would bring us back together. That night, I rushed to her apartment, gift in hand, heart racing. I wanted to see her face light up. I wanted to believe that maybe this would remind her of what we once had. But when I walked in, something felt off. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. She hugged me, but it was cold, distracted. And when I told her the news, expecting joy, her reaction was something else entirely. It wasn't excitement. It wasn't pride. It was something darker, something that made my stomach twist. And that's when I first realized Emily wasn't happy for me. She was jealous. Her reaction that night still replays in my mind like a broken record. I stood there, grinning ear to ear, telling her that everything I had worked for was finally coming true. I thought she'd throw her arms around me, kiss me, maybe even cry happy tears. But instead, she went quiet. Too quiet. She didn't ask questions. She didn't say, "I'm proud of you." She just stared, her lips pressed into this thin line, and after what felt like forever, she muttered, "That's great." I tried to ignore the knot in my stomach, but it grew tighter with every second. Something in her tone, it wasn't pride. It was resentment. Like my success was somehow her failure. The days after that moment only got worse. Suddenly, she was distant in ways I couldn't ignore. Calls went unanswered. Texts came hours late. Whenever we did meet, she was glued to her phone, distracted, almost irritated by my presence. I started to feel like a stranger in my own relationship. I asked her if something was wrong, but she brushed me off. "You're imagining things," she said, rolling her eyes. But I wasn't. I knew her too well. Then the whispers started. Friends dropping hints that they'd seen her out when she said she was home. A mutual acquaintance casually mentioning she'd been asking a lot of questions about my work, questions she never asked me directly. At first, I refused to believe it. This was Emily. She wouldn't hurt me. She couldn't. But my gut told me otherwise. And the more I tried to push it down, the more the cracks began to show. One night, I caught her scrolling through my laptop. She slammed it shut when I walked in, brushing it off with a flimsy excuse about looking for music. But I knew. She wasn't looking for music. She was digging into my files, my notes, my pitch decks. The very ideas I had spent years building. I wanted to confront her, to demand the truth, but something inside me froze. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was denial. But deep down, I knew I was standing on the edge of something I wasn't ready to face. And then came the night I found out what she had really been doing behind my back. The night everything came crashing down didn't begin with fireworks. It started quietly, too quietly. Emily had been distant for weeks, but that night, she was almost nervous. She paced the living room, checking her phone every few seconds, her fingers tapping against the glass like she was waiting for something. Or someone. I told myself not to overthink it. Maybe she was stressed. Maybe I was just being paranoid. But deep inside, a storm was building, and I could feel it pressing against my chest, warning me that I was about to lose more than I ever imagined. I excused myself to the kitchen, trying to calm down, but that's when I noticed her bag sitting open on the chair. Papers spilled out, my papers. My pitch drafts, early notes, even private sketches I'd never shared with anyone. I froze. How had she gotten these? Why did she even have them? Before I could make sense of it, her phone buzzed on the table. A new message lit up the screen. I shouldn't have looked, but my eyes moved faster than my willpower. And there it was, my name, followed by details only I should have known. Words like final design, launch strategy, and a file attachment I recognized instantly. It wasn't just my idea. It was the idea. My dream. The one thing I had worked years for. I felt my hands shaking. I wanted to ask her right then, scream, demand the truth, but I couldn't. My throat closed up. All I could do was sit there, the weight of betrayal pressing down on me like a vice. When she walked back into the room, she noticed me staring. For a moment, her eyes flickered with something I had never seen before, fear. She grabbed her phone so fast it nearly slipped from her hands. Then, with that same rehearsed smile she always used when she wanted to cover something up, she asked, "What's wrong?" I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe it was all a misunderstanding. But the pieces no longer fit. The excuses, the distance, the strange questions, it was all leading here. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of our relationship. Every time she asked about my work, every time she brushed off my excitement, every time she said she was too tired to talk. The truth was circling me like a predator, and I couldn't escape it. By morning, I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. I had to know. I had to see it with my own eyes. So I followed her. I told myself it was crazy, that I was being obsessive, but something stronger than logic pulled me down that path. I trailed her across town, heart hammering, palms sweating, until she finally stopped. And when I saw where she went, and who she was meeting, my entire world collapsed in one heartbeat. I stood frozen on the sidewalk, my breath caught in my throat. Emily wasn't meeting a stranger. She was sitting across from my own business partner, the one person I trusted to build this dream with me. There they were, leaning close in the corner of the cafe, whispering over the very documents I had spent years perfecting. My logo, my designs, my words, all laid out on the table between them like it was theirs. It felt like the ground gave way beneath me. Not only had Emily stolen my work, she had stolen my future, teaming up with the one person who knew all my plans inside and out. But the worst part wasn't just betrayal. It was what happened next. Because as I stood there, trying to process the wreckage of my life, another figure walked in. Claire, Emily's younger sister. She stopped dead when she saw them, her face pale, her eyes darting to mine through the glass. And in that instant, I realized, Claire already knew. She had known more than she ever said. But why was she here now? And whose side was she really on? Claire's eyes locked with mine through the glass, wide with panic, as if she'd been caught in a storm she couldn't control. She hesitated only a second before marching into the cafe, straight toward Emily and my so-called partner. I followed, every nerve in my body burning. The moment I stepped inside, their laughter died. Emily's face drained of color, my partner stiffened, and Claire, she positioned herself between us, like she had been waiting for this explosion. Tell him, Claire said, her voice trembling but firm. Tell him the truth. Emily tried to smile, but it cracked at the edges. You don't understand. No. I cut her off, slamming my hand on the table. I understand perfectly. You used me. You stole from me. And you planned to erase me from my own dream. The cafe went silent. Emily's eyes darted around, searching for words, but Claire spoke first. She wasn't going to stop, you know. She would have taken everything. That's why. She paused, swallowing hard. That's why I came to you. It hit me then. Claire hadn't stumbled into this. She'd been watching, protecting me in her own quiet way. And now, she was making a choice. Emily stood, her voice sharp like broken glass. Don't listen to her. She's jealous. She's always wanted what I had. But before I could respond, Claire pulled a folded envelope from her bag and slid it across the table. My heart raced as I opened it and froze. Inside were contracts, emails, proof that Emily and my partner had already signed away my ideas to another investor. The betrayal was deeper than I imagined. And then Claire whispered, almost too softly to hear, I have a way to undo this, but you'll have to trust me. The cafe felt colder after that moment, as if all the air had been sucked out of it. Emily's voice was shaking now, no longer confident, no longer in control. She tried to grab the envelope back, but I held it tight. Every word in those papers cut deeper than any argument ever could. My partner avoided my eyes, shame written all over his face. Maybe he'd been tempted by money, maybe by Emily's promises, but in that instant, he looked smaller, weaker than I'd ever seen him. Emily, though, wasn't backing down. You think you're the victim? You were always too obsessed with your work to notice me. You made me feel invisible. Her words stung, but they didn't excuse what she'd done. Betrayal is never justified. And as much as I had once loved her, I realized something important. Love without trust is nothing. I turned to Claire. She stood steady, her hands clenched, but her eyes were honest. For weeks, she had tried to warn me without tearing her family apart. And now, she was giving me the very proof I needed to take my life back. Together, we walked out of that cafe. I didn't look back. The weeks that followed weren't easy. Untangling the mess, securing my work, rebuilding what had almost been stolen. It took everything I had. But Claire was there through it all. Not because she wanted to replace Emily, not because she wanted to be a hero, but because she believed in me when no one else did. Slowly, what began as quiet support turned into something more. A friendship built on honesty, late-night talks, and laughter I hadn't felt in months. With Claire, there was no competition, no hidden agenda. Just two people figuring out life side by side. And yes, eventually, those feelings grew into love. The kind of love that doesn't demand or manipulate, but heals. Looking back now, I don't regret what happened. Painful as it was, it taught me something vital. Sometimes the people we think are meant to walk with us forever are only meant to teach us lessons. And sometimes, when one dream is stolen, another quietly takes its place, stronger, truer, and more beautiful than before. Emily thought she took everything from me, but in reality, she only cleared the path for something better. So if you've ever been betrayed, if you've ever felt like your whole world collapsed in a single moment, remember this: endings are not always tragedies. Sometimes, they're the beginning of the story you were meant to live all along. And for me, that story began the day Emily's sister chose to stand by my side.